So hopefully, is that Cesar or is that Jim? Is who's there? I see somebody who's a co-host. Maybe it's Cesar. So thank you, Cesar. So let's. What I'll do is maybe just introduce you, and we'll go from there. How does that work?
Yes, with
Okay.
pleasure. Thank you, Doug.
Very good. Well, so good morning, good afternoon, good evening around the world. My name is Doug Brunke. I am the founder and CEO of Global Chamber. So I love this new logo you've got there. That's really cool, JB. So we have a speaker today, JB Deal, who's been a speaker before at Global Chamber. He is really smart. He's really good. He is based in Hong Kong, and correct me if I'm wrong, if that has changed. He knows the region. He's also been an expert on a variety of other regions, including France and Eastern France. He's represented them along the way of his career. And so he's an expert on that region as well. And today he's blessing us with another angle of his expertise, and that's negotiation. So he's going to be talking about cross-cultural negotiation in a series of two meetings, and he's going to be talking about 36 negotiation strategies, particularly in Asia. So I'm fascinated, and I know those of you in the audience, whether you're in person or this is the recorded version, will benefit from this conversation. And those of you who are alive, we will have some time for Q&A at the end. So JB, thank you so much for your longtime support and collaboration. We look forward to learning more today. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Doug. And it's a pleasure to be here once again. I've been a member of the Global Chamber for quite some time, and it's an amazing organization. So thank you very much for what you do, Doug.
Thank you.
Um, yeah, so as you mentioned, you can see the logo, the Deal Negotiation Institute, and my name is Jean-Baptiste Deal. So I'm the founder of a company called Advantagens, which is a business accelerator in Hong Kong, and also the program that I launched, which is the Deal Negotiation Institute. All right, so a small technical issue. Can you all see my screen?
We can. Oh, there you go. That's even better.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I've been here in Asia for over 20 years. I was born in France, and I've been managing many global projects, between Europe and Asia. I work for US companies. I work with Japanese companies. I've done a lot of different things and work related to procurement, sales and business development, investment. I represented government agencies. I've done a lot of different things. So I do have a lot of experience that I'm very happy to share with the world. And my strength will be language, culture, negotiation, network, and integrity. So that's how I would define myself. So most people, there's a big problem in Asia, right? Most people, they come to Asia and they actually don't know what's going on. It's a big black box. So people don't understand the language, they don't understand the culture. Sometimes they go to a trade show, they meet people, they exchange name cards, but then they go back home and they don't exactly know what happens because although they shared some name cards, they send some emails, quotation, but nothing comes out of it, So there's a big black box. People usually don't understand what's going on. So that's kind of the start, the problem at the very beginning. So, and that's the reason why I've designed the 36 negotiation strategies in Asia program. And so it's designed there are 5 key objectives. The first one is to share the knowledge of negotiation strategies that have been used for a very, very long time in China and in Asia. The second one is to empower people, and you want every time to make sure that you are able to go inside the head of the other party. So this is also very important. You want to gain clarity. Clarity is so important because usually, like I said, there's no clarity with the black box story. The third thing is, as soon as you identify what's going on, you want to avoid the traps. And there's so many traps, and sometimes people don't even realize something is going on. So you want to avoid those traps. The fourth reason why I've developed this project is basically you want to maximize your opportunities. Those are very powerful negotiation strategies. So you want to know about them, and you also want to use them so that you can be successful in your business. And the last one, obviously, you want to gain reputation. You want to be the Mr. Deal. You want to make things done. Yeah. So that's the reason why we have the Deal Negotiation Institute and why we have our meeting today. So a quick reminder before we go into the program, Chinese people actually are everywhere around the world. Obviously, there's Chinese people in China, Hong Kong, Taiwan, but few people know or sometimes forget. But if you look at Singapore, 50% of the people are Chinese. If you look at Malaysia, it's more than 20%. And actually, if you consider all around the world, like the Chinese diaspora is very strong, and it's usually they are usually behind a lot of businesses. So it's more than 50% in Singapore, for example. So it's huge. So knowing about those Chinese and Asian, that's why I called it Asian, because it's more than Chinese. And this is very, very powerful. All right. So those strategies, by the way, can be utilized in business, but also in all sort of settings for talking whenever you want to talk with partners, clients, investors. And it's also applicable to politics, actually. And if you think about it, you can also see it in geopolitics and what's going on around us today. So let's have a bit of a background. I think you have probably heard about Sun Tzu, which was a very important Chinese military strategist. And he's very well known, and most noticeably because he wrote a book called The Art of War. And I think you might have heard of that name before, the name of that book. And we can derive a lot of strategies from this book. So it's very important. It's utilized even today in Asian and also Western military strategy. So it's very, very important, very relevant in today's world. So we have designed 36 negotiation strategies based on this. And there are 6 families of strategies. The first one is whenever you want to gain the advantage. You have 6 strategies to help you gain an advantage. The next type will be whenever you see an opportunity, you want to seize it, you want to grab it. And we have 6 strategies about this. The third one are about attacks. So, we're in a situation, we're in business, so we have to be able to attack, counter-attack. So this is strategies for attacks. Then you have also the confusion. So you want some time to create confusion. So you might be able to use those strategies to create confusion, which is very, very important. And gaining ground. And the last one would be desperate situation. So desperate situation is whenever you don't know what to do. You're like in a really complicated situation. So we cover a very wide range of situation. So let's go into it. We have a case study, so you understand what it means. And actually, you can see the title. The first one, the strategy number 1, is called "Fool the Emperor to Cross the Sea." All right, so you will understand what it means in a second. And this one is actually a real case study. I lived it myself. And actually, it's Richard, the owner, is a company. It's a company based in Eastern Pennsylvania. I worked for them for about 8 years. Amazing company. Anyway, so Richard, or Mr. M, is doing a business trip, and he comes to Asia. And of course, he had a very long trip. And when he arrives at the airport, his host is telling him, "Hey, let's go and have a relaxing dinner." And of course, is thinking that is actually a good idea. So why not? So he goes to that dinner, and then suddenly his partner comes to him and says, "Hey, I've got this new project, and I really need you to support me with this. Let's do it together." And this is basically a way for him to being pushed into a corner, and it will be very difficult for him to say no or come back to whatever he had agreed to. So this is the first case study. And, my question would be, what do you see here? So I will take questions later on, so you can always ask me question, but let's get into it. So basically, the situation and the strategy called "Fool the Emperor to Cross the Sea" comes from a story. And in Chinese there are idioms. So there are 4-character stories. So Man Tian Guo Hai, that's the Chinese name of the strategy, and it means to fool the emperor to cross the sea. Basically, that's probably the best translation. And the story is, during the Tang Dynasty, there was an emperor, and he was very powerful. He ruled all over China, and he had a weakness. He was a bit seasick, and he was not feeling very comfortable on the sea, on water. So he always had like some kind of apprehension. He did not want to go and attack Korea because, as you know, Korea is over you have to cross the sea, right? So you could go around, but that's a longer way. So his generals wanted to force him to go, and his generals knew very well that they had power, they had military superiority, so they would not be afraid to go over on the other side. Only the emperor was a bit scared. And so that's why one of the general devised a plan, and he basically disguised a huge boat, as a Chinese restaurant. And, like they had like a big party. So the emperor came and of course had a big feast inside. And well, because of the noise and all the fun going on, they didn't actually realize that he was crossing the sea. And in the middle of the trip, they turned on all of the tents, and then he really realized that he had been fooled. So that's the story. It's a little bit long, but that's really the story. And it means whenever you are acting, you want to make sure that you are in the open, because you don't want the people to feel that something is going on, right? So you don't want to go into the shadow. You don't want anything to look suspicious. You want to hide your intentions, right? So you create a screen, a smoke screen, and that's actually very powerful. So this is a strategy called "Fool the Emperor to Cross the Sea." And yeah, so this is actually when we go to the case study, this is exactly the situation, right? So Mr. M was very exhausted. He had a very long trip. He was very weak, jet lag, just landed, and bam, someone comes to him and say, "Hey, and by the way, I call you my friend." Well, I'll get back to that in a second. But this is actually a negotiation strategy. Yeah. So how do you want to gain control in this kind of situation? I think the first one, obviously, is you want to, like this one, you gain clarity. Now you understand what's going on, right? You gain clarity. The next one is about gaining control. So whenever you do business in Asia, remember that if you feel that you're in a safe place, actually you're most likely in a very dangerous place, because someone wants to make you feel safe and comfortable. So something is going on. Remember that. Sometimes it's good to pause. Whenever you're on a business trip or trying to meet with people, just have a think. Take a few minutes, cool down, and think of what's going on around you. Yeah, very, very important. The second thing that I think is a good good point to remember: whenever you come out of a plane, as soon as you get off the plane, the meeting starts. It's not going to be the next day. When you plan to have the meeting, it's exactly the minute you meet your partner. It could be about talking about anything else, but it's the business has already started. So remember that. The third point is on being called a friend. I think if someone ever calls you a friend, you have to remember that you are a target. You suddenly, someone is a target, and I'm the target. If you hear someone say, "Hey, my friend. And that's what it means in Asia. You know, not like what we think in the Western world. You know, friend is something very different. Yeah, in Chinese and in Asian culture, everyone will call you a friend, my friend. Yeah, so this is very important. So now you try, we give you control, right? You want to gain control. The next one is another situation, still based on the same strategy. So it's another case study. So now we have Mr. M, another Mr. M, and he's entertaining a delegation coming from Asia. So he has a lot of guests coming to visit him, and he wants them to feel more comfortable. So he will create an itinerary, he will translate it in the Asian language, and he wants to make his guests feel home and feel at home, you know, feel comfortable, confident. So we organize a big dinner, big lunch, you know, big party. And yeah, that's the goal, making your partner feeling comfortable. And then whenever you feel the time is right, this is going to be the time when you will be asking the challenging question, because obviously you will have prepared your meeting in advance. So you might be actually spending a little bit of money organizing, like, you know, the tour, the translation, the guide, the restaurant, you know, everything. But actually the return on investment is is very likely to be very high. If you can improve your deal or the conditions of your deal by 10, 20, 30% just by doing this, this is a huge return on investment. So that's actually how you want to gain power with this strategy. So you need to use the familiar to introduce the unfamiliar. You want to learn about your counterpart in advance. We always say in negotiation, you need to prepare, right? Prepare, prepare, prepare. So you need to be ready, and you need to know what your guest, you know, feels, and you want them to feel comfortable. So that's the second point. Another tip is translate the material for your international guest so they can feel a bit more secure. So it's very small detail. It might be like considered to be a detail, but this is so important, so powerful. All right, so there's a quote from someone special, which is Li Tanghui, which is a former president of Taiwan. The most dangerous place is also the safest place. All right, so you see that those strategies are everywhere in Asia. People know about them, and if you talk to people, sometimes they know them because they have experienced them. Sometimes they know them because they are not even aware of it. You know, they are not even aware of the name of the strategy, but they know it's part of their blood. And people have been living in Asia since they're very young. They start negotiating in markets. You know, it's a very different environment, not like in Europe or in North America. You know, in Asia, people negotiate every single day. They haggle on the market, on the streets, you know, for everything and anything. Yeah. So they're very good at negotiation. All right, the next strategy, today I'll be sharing a second strategy also, which is strategy 15. So the name is called Lure the Tiger Down the Mountain. So what does it mean? So let's have a look at another case study. There's a company, a water purification company, that is negotiating with an Asian buyer who is interested in acquiring its technology, right? Usually Asian company that like technology, that like tech, and this is something very tangible. They love tech, actually. So it's very likely you might come across this type of situation, I would say, as a businessman. All right, so of course, because you're the owner, this company is owning the technology, and they are a Western company, so they organize a meeting at the company's head office. So they plan in advance, a few months in advance, to come and visit. And 2 weeks prior to the meeting, finally, there's an email out of the blue. You know, your contact is inviting you to go to a very famous resort, and it might be in Singapore, you know, or someone like very interesting, you know, like a very nice place with a big name. And yeah, so of course they will cover all the expenses. Your guest say they will cover all the expenses, and they think that it will be a great way to start a cooperation. So they want to get to know each other. They want to, get to. Also, they want to go to that nice place, right? Could be Singapore, could be Macau, could be Paris. Could be in many types of situations where something is happening. There's a trap, basically. So what do you see, right? So this is kind of, you need to pause for a minute and try to analyze the situation. So let's try to have a look and gain clarity now. So lure the tiger down the mountain, Diao Hu Li Shan, right? So Diao is bring out, Hu is the tiger, Li is leave, and Shan is the mountain, right? So you want to grab the tiger out of his mountain to make him, make him lose ground, lose safety. Yeah. So there's a story again. So there was a warlord, Sun, and he had one enemy, and he knew that his enemy had a third party, was looking at acquiring land from a third party country. And so Mr. Sun decided that it would be great to trick his opponent and tell his opponent that he would help, very generously help help them acquire that piece of land or that territory. And yeah, so actually the plan worked. So the opponent sent the military, and Mr. Sun sent a small battalion, not too much, but he helped a little bit. But at the same time, the enemy's party had left their capital. No one was protecting their capital. And that's when Sun made his move, and he actually hit his opponent and he seized the whole thing. Yeah, so he grabbed power. So that's what's going on. This is a real story that happened during the Eastern Han Dynasty. All right, so this is what does it mean? So basically, you want to make sure someone is coming out of their comfort zone and coming out of their stronghold. So you might want to find a way to do that, right? So make sure that if you have an opponent, if you're in a negotiation strategy, if you're in a negotiation setting, you want to make sure that you gain as much power as possible. So try to weaken your opponent's position, right? And you can do it in many, many ways. So this is a Chinese way to do it. So what do you want to do to gain control? So whenever you do business with an Asian person, try to be very careful. Try to avoid and think whenever you receive an invitation. Because what I did not tell you here in this case, if they went to Singapore, and actually in Singapore, as you know, people speak Chinese, right? Most people speak Chinese because, as I said, more than 50% of the population is Chinese. Plus, they actually own the location, the resort. So they were in their own territory. So they were like, we moved the negotiation setting from overseas to what appeared to be a neutral place. And actually, it was not a neutral place. It was a stronghold for the Chinese company, right? So you never know. So you need to be very cautious. So whenever you try to negotiate, so try to make sure that you remain in a familiar environment. Don't go in some new place that you're not sure who it is, where it is. You need to be as confident as possible because you have like 10, 20, 30% of your deal. Like the value of your deal will be decreased by that much if you're in that kind of environment. It's just human nature. Negotiation is about feeling, it's about emotions. And just by changing the setting, changing the environment, you can direct the negotiation and you have a strong deal or a very weak deal. So this is what you have to keep in mind. So you want to gain control, right? Yeah, so and of course the third point is you want to conduct research. Try to understand anything that's happening before you go to that meeting. Just make sure you understand, you are prepared. All right, so this is very important. Okay, the next case study is still about lure the tiger down the mountain. It's a French businessman and he's in discussion with an Asian partner. And of course, this Asian partner is very interested to distribute products, of very fashionable products in very high demand in Asia. And knowing that Asian people love the city of love, right, Paris, well, the businessman is inviting his partner to visit Paris at the same time. And so this is actually a very nice way, to gain power, because now you are in a very powerful situation. You can invite them on the Champs-Élysées, to the flagship stores and do a lot of different VIP things. So you might be able to spend a little bit of money for that, but the negotiation power you will get will be tremendous, and you will recover like 10, 20, 30, even more % of your deal. The value of your deal would be much better if you do that. So this is how now you can gain power. So 3 tips as usual. So you want to research the boundaries of your counterpart comfort zone. You also want to convince your counterpart to negotiate in an unfamiliar place for them. And so you are in a very strong hold for you, but maybe they're in a weak place, right? But sometimes they don't even realize it. Yeah, so the third point is you want to influence your Asian counterpart to go to your location by offering rewards, right? And also make sure that you give them face, right? So face is very important. Respect, so you respect people. It's very, very important. All right, so this is the end of today's sharing regarding 2 of the negotiation strategies. So the goal of the program is to allow people to negotiate with confidence, gain clarity, control, and power. This is the whole purpose of the Deal Negotiation Institute. And that's why I'm very happy today to have this sharing with everyone from the Global Chamber and beyond. So thank you very much for your attention. Yeah, I'll take any question. And by the way, I'm also launching a program which is about the 36 negotiation strategies in Europe, because as you mentioned, Doug, I'm actually French. So I was born in France, educated in France. I've been in Asia for 20 years, in Europe for 20 years. I have a wealth of knowledge and experience. So I have 2 programs that are very helpful and very impactful to help people negotiate better with confidence, yeah, clarity and power. Great, thank you very much.
Sorry about that.
Yes. Hey, JB, I'll be right there, sir.
Yes. All right, I see some people. Willem, it's a pleasure to see you again. How are you doing?
Morning. Very well, thanks. Yourself?
Very good, thank you.
Good,
So
good.
what did you think of the presentation?
Yeah, very insightful. There's things that quite a few things that I didn't know already, so it's quite good.
Great. Very good. Remember, the Chinese negotiation strategy is the art of war. And yeah, you've been in Asia and in China for quite some time. You know how Chinese people always have like 4 characters, like, small banners. You can see one behind me here on the wall. That's from the Chinese New Year, right? So you
Yep.
always have like small, poems, I would say. And
That's right.
so many of them are auspicious, but some of them are relevant to negotiation. And those are actually the negotiation strategies that I'm sharing today. So there's so much we can learn from those. Yeah.
Yeah, my Putonghua is not of your caliber, so I'm
Nani,
still a
nani.
learning phase.
All right. Well, thank you for this great sharing. Yes.
Yeah.
My
What
French
other?
is much better.
Thank you, Willem. What is it that you do?
I'm an investment banker, so I've been in Hong Kong for 5 years. So I work for a Chinese firm actually. So yeah, a lot of this stuff resonates.
Okay. Do you already know JB? Have you met in person?
Yeah, we have, yeah.
Okay. So great. Thank you for joining today. Are there other
Thank you.
questions? I see some folks. Mark Cohen is somebody that always has an opinion about negotiation. Mark, have you spoken yet? Are you here? Are you able to speak? You know, Mark is a very, Mark back has set up so many successful businesses, including his, you know, in China. He's been recognized as a leader around the world, but his expertise in China and negotiating in China is legendary. He's not unmuting himself or singing, so he must be either driving or something else. Oh, I see your microphone came unglued.
I have 2 seconds. I am in the car, and wow, what a great conversation. I wish I had him 40 years ago. I was duplicating all this 40 years ago. It's all about getting prepared for the enemy and getting prepared for people and what to do, right? So it was a beautiful thing I've been listening to, and can't wait to engage more with him. And bravo to him. We need this now, today, with everything.
Is there, from what you heard, are there any like big mistakes that you made that you could have fixed with this information?
I wish I had this information in my time, because it was always a learning experience. But collectively, I am right in line with what he has presented. Because of the 40 years experience I had, we need this now. So I wish I made all the mistakes. We made all the mistakes, right? That's how we learned. But it was really the education of the timeline and my experience of going through this, and it was a work in progress. And now collectively to see that and have that prepared for businesses today, and for people to go over and start negotiating. And like everyone, as Doug, as we had conversations, it's always getting prepared to be prepared, right? So you have to be prepared and know your customer.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Well, thanks, Mark, for your leadership. Mark is based in the U.S. now, but many years of experience working in China. Mark, any other comments you'd like to make?
You know, I had some discussions with a couple of the advisors today, and you know, with the tariffs going on today, I was with one of my clients, a dear friend that's been doing global businesses for a while, and with the tariffs and quotas and everything else that's going on, you know, the number one word that we always need to use now is compromise. Because at the end of the day, we're doing business and trade internationally, and any of our customers are, they're all partners for us, right? So they're just in the same category as we are, and vice versa. So we all have to get along and know that this is a season that will definitely, you know, move into another season. And we just need to compromise and communicate as much as we can with our clients, right? And that's my best advice I can give to any company today.
Very good. Thank you. JB, how does compromise weave into what you talked about? How does that word and action weave in?
Well, compromise is a very good word. It's actually about trading, right? You want to look for value. Whenever you do negotiation, you want to identify what the other person think and what they value. What is their goal, but also how do they value things? Because something that has no value to you might have a lot of value for your partner. And let's say that like an exclusivity agreement, you know, you don't care about the exclusivity, but your partner has put a lot of value on it. So you want to trade. So there's a compromise, but also it's an exchange of value, right? So you want to get the best deal possible. It's not about, basically what it means is negotiation is not a zero-sum game. It's not 1 + 1 = 2. It's possible that 1 + 1 = 1,000. If you have a hammer and a nail on each side, if you put them together, you can increase the value exponentially. And this is the beauty of negotiation. So you want to try to identify this as much as you can. That's why it's very important to be listening and try to understand what the other person thinks and want. That's what I can say, yes. Thank you for this comment, too.
Hi everyone. This is Tilo.
Hello.
Hi everyone. I like to step in right here, Jean-Baptiste, because the hammer and the nail that really was was a good Kickstarter for me. Well, I heard about the Sun Tzu strategy in 1998 when I studied in Qingdao Ocean University. But at that time, being a young man, you know, you just think, wow, that's history actually, right? But it took me many years up and downs to really realize, you know, that they do live it. Not all of them, but many do. And you know, for some reason, Jean-Baptiste and I we found each other, and I think it's great being here and seeing that you doing it, you bring it into practice for let's say the Westerners, if you allow me to say, to be prepared and well armed actually for, you know, for the battle. But coming back to the hammer and the nail, and maybe some of you guys know the story, right? There's a tanker in the harbor, right? And there's an engine problem, can't move, costing a lot of money being the harbor, right? Should be on the ocean going already. So they're looking for the mechanic to fix the engine quickly. Well, to cut it short, right? He found the error, just took out a hammer, one bang, engine going. He presented the bill, $1 for the hammer, 99. Well, let's say almost $10,000, right? 9,999 for service. And the captain like, hey, that's a steep bill. Yeah. Well, I knew how to do the bang. So the thing is, and I have been there actually on the ground in China in those deals, you know, where that bang actually, that becomes very, very valuable. And what you just said, like one plus one can actually be 1,000 is so true if you know where's the bang. And sometimes you do actually, how can I put it? You would wish for an advisor like you, Jean-Baptiste, to be there right in that moment when that kind of negotiation happening. And sometimes it's hard to tell when it's kicking in, right? You said, well, it's coming right from the start in a way, yes, but sometimes, you know, it can happen out of the blue during the trip. I mean, and sometimes we think we are already well armed, we prepared everything, but there are surprises. And I had such a surprise. And actually, I called up a Chinese friend, a so-called friend, right? But we had already what I thought a quite trusted, you know, let's say business relationship for quite a while. And he did give me some advice, but I think the cultural gap is still there. And I think it really makes sense to work with someone who understands very well both sides. And even in that situation I had, it would have been better if I would have known you at that time, Jean-Baptiste. Unfortunately, I didn't. But anyway, that's a long story. So thank you for doing this program.
Well, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Raymond, where are you located?
Oh, I'm from Manila.
Oh, okay. Very good. And do you know JB?
Unfortunately, no. I'm in the email group and I saw that this is a very interesting webinar for me.
Okay.
I'm a practicing attorney and negotiation is pretty much routine for us, but you know, learning from peers and people around the world would always be a welcome opportunity. So I'm here right now.
Okay. Very good. Welcome. Ruby Golo is also here. Ruby, are you available to speak? And any reaction to what you heard today? You're undoubtedly an extraordinary negotiator in Ghana, and probably in any country in Africa, very familiar with that, and certainly in the U.S. and others. And so I know you have experience with China. In fact, I think the group Made in China came in through you ultimately, that became Global Chamber members. And so Ruby probably can't talk, but if you are doing business in Africa, Ruby is the person to start with. And thank you, Ruby, for all that you do. And Eduardo Gonzalez may not be able to speak either, but he's an expert on Mexican negotiation. And so, Eduardo, thank you for joining today and being part of this. If you ever wanted to do a negotiation in Mexico, Eduardo is the guy. And so, I think in our event last night, Global Chamber, we had a mostly Asia League of Extraordinaries, and there was one fellow who was talking about a deal between I think it might have been Japan, Mexico, is what not China, Mexico, but certainly those kinds of things are happening all the time. JB, you've got so much experience with France, and so what are some of the both alignments and differences between what you see between your home country and China, and how do you resolve that in your own mind?
Great. Before replying your question, I'd like to comment on Raymond's earlier comment.
Oh, sure. Please go ahead.
So, Raymond, it's a pleasure to see you, and I agree with you. Negotiation is everywhere, and whenever you're an attorney or even a father, you have to negotiate with your kids every day. So, negotiation is actually everywhere.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. And what I can say is usually in negotiation, people forget about the cultural part of it. One of the reasons why I launched this project and program, it's because we are entering the world of AI, and AI is going to replace a lot of people or jobs, but negotiation is really something that will never be replaced as long as we have people, because it's connected with the emotions, connected with people's history, beliefs, feelings. So it's not possible to replace negotiation with AI. And I think in the realm of negotiation, I did an MBA program, so I did an MBA program with negotiation program. I also went to Harvard to do the program on negotiation. Is called the PON. So very interesting, very nice. I learned a lot. But then I realized there's a blind spot, which is basically cross-cultural negotiation, because with the Global Chamber, we're in a global business, right? And we don't know about people on the other side of the river, right? So how did they think? What is their history? What do they like? And this is so important to help you, like, do whatever you want, So you have to know that, and cross-cultural negotiation is so important, and that's why I have this program. And feel free to reach out if you need any support later on. Yeah. So thank you very much for your comment, Raymond. So, coming back to your question, as you mentioned, I was born in France, and people view negotiation in France in a very different way. And the culture is also very, very different, So people, they usually are lost in translation between France and Asia, because you have a different language, different culture, different history, different feelings, emotions. So it's very important to know both of them. So I'm able to do cross-border negotiations. So not only Westerners to go into Asia, but also Asian or people from the US to go into Europe and understand the European culture. So actually the program that I'm building, and I'm almost ready to launch it for European negotiation, cross-cultural negotiation, is based on the Fable de La Fontaine. I guess you might have heard the fables of La Fontaine that were written like in the 1600s by a person called La Fontaine, obviously. And so many stories are very well known, right? So like the lion and the rat, there's so many stories, and we can learn so much from those stories also. Every culture is very rich, and actually at the end of the day, we are all humans, and we have our own history, beliefs, culture. So if you understand how people think, you can gain clarity, and then you want to gain control and gain power. So you have to understand that's so important. Yeah, so maybe we can do another meeting later on, Doug, whenever you want, with about cross-cultural negotiation in Europe. Yeah, so this will be a pleasure. Yes.
Well, tell us then what are the next steps, both for how people can learn more.
Very good. So I have a website. Some information is on the website. You might also connect with me through email, or I can also share my phone here. We can have a call, and we can take it from there. So I offer. Like I mentioned, I came to Asia 20 years ago, and initially my business was called Advantageous, so connecting projects, money, and partners. That's what I've been doing for the last 20 years. But for the negotiation program, I offer 1 hour sessions and also like programs with 10 hours, so we can cover every unit. One unit is one strategy. So it's like 40 minutes. Usually we take 40 minutes to 1 hour, but it depends on the schedule because we're all busy people. So we can adapt. We can do online coaching, for individuals, but also for groups. So this is what we can do, and I'll be happy to share more details by email later on. So let me write my email in the comment.
So the email address is it a new domain name?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Actually, it was on the presentation. Maybe let me
Oh,
get from the presentation.
so as far as the next steps, I think we also have another Globinar coming up, right? Is that next week, or? I think
Yes,
it's
correct.
Yeah.
We have another presentation next week, and that one will be more for, I think it's 2 p.m. Hong Kong time, right? So this is for people based in Europe, but of course anyone can join.
Okay. Is it the same content or different?
This is going to be the same content because, I want to make sure that people can understand. But of course, I have a lot more, case studies and material. Every presentation has a few hundred pages, so I can, share a lot of details. Yeah, so this is a website.
So, Deal Negotiation Institute.
Yeah, and this is my, you can also reach me by WhatsApp or by phone.
Okay. Oh, that sounds good. What, while you're doing that, what final comments do you have to wrap up?
Well, I think people don't really value and don't really see what's going on at the moment. AI is coming, it's coming very strong. And I think at the end of the day, you need to keep learning, improving oneself, and focus on your soft skills and what makes you a human. And I think sales, for example, is a very good skill, but also negotiation. So I would encourage you and people to look at negotiation in another light. Technology is everywhere, but we are humans, and negotiation is part of it. It's everywhere. Like I said, in the family, everywhere, in business, politics, everywhere. If you look at geopolitics, and if you understand the 36 negotiation strategies, you will see the world in a very different way, and you will realize what's going on. Yeah. So anyway, so I think it's always very helpful to know, yeah, and to understand, feel better. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you for sharing. Feel free to contact JB directly. And if you have any additional questions, contact JB, contact Global Chamber. We're continuing to grow our series of programs that are built around increasing business. And certainly negotiation is right at the core, as you point out, not just in business, but negotiating with our kids and grandkids and the grocer sometimes on whatever. So practice, continue to get better. And these tips are incredibly helpful. Thank you, JB, and we'll catch you next week.
Great. All right. Take care. See you soon, everyone. Bye.
Have a great rest of your day. Take care. Thanks, everybody.